they're doing it again. Actually, they've been doing it for a bit now. It's Mercedes-Benz Australia and plug-in hybrid tech. It's been the Ross and Rachel, or Jim and Pam, or Hobart and Footy Stadium of the premium automotive world for a while now. The brand's dipped its toe in the plug-in hybrid water a few times in the past and decided maybe not yet. But now, I mean, they've got a few models here already, but this one feels like a bit of an arrival. What better way to announce to Australia that you're finally locking in to plug-in hybrid tech than with the most popular three-pointed start around? And also this one, the C-Class, that's right, it arrives with the GLC, which is actually the most popular Mercedes now, although this one used to be. It feels a little bit more important though, because for Mercedes heads, the C-Class is kind of it. So it's the C350e, the plug-in hybrid version of one of Mercedes' most iconic cars. And it's here, like I said, with the GLC. We're at the Australian launch of both, and we're focusing on this one today to see if Mercedes dipping its toe back in the water properly is any good. Let's check if the water's warm. Well, not like that. Pricing for the C350e sits pretty level on with the non-hybrid C300, and that's because Mercedes wanted to make it less of a choice of cost and more of a choice of powertrain between the two. That means it starts from $98,200, but it does come with one fairly big option, a $1,500 DC charging option. That would bring the price up to $99,700 before on roads.
There's a decent stack of standard kit in the C350e, including power adjustable heated leather seats, a 12.3-inch multimedia touchscreen and same-size digital driver display. There's a head-up display, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It also scores some more fun stuff as standard, including a Burmester surround sound system, panoramic sunroof, plus it also gets the Driving Assist Plus pack, augmented reality MBUX, and the AMG line pack, which adds some sportier looking design features. It also comes with comfort suspension with self-leveling suspension and digital lights with adaptive high beam. There's a full list of features at the written review at carsguide.com.au.
Most of what's new with this C-Class is, of course, under the metal, but you can tell there's a few things that come with this specification as standard for Australia that make it look just that little bit extra nice. One of the things is the fact that it has the AMG line exterior pack, which includes things like these nice 5-spoke AMG 18-inch alloy wheels. They've got a little bit of old school Merc in them, but they kind of also have this aero plate that goes around the side too. Another thing that you can tell from the outside of this car is the digital lights, which have auto high beam. They look kind of futuristic inside. If you have a look in there, there's millions of little parts to them. The E-Class also has those as well, so it's a bit of a trickle-down luxury features thing for Mercedes. The other main way you're able to tell that this is a plug-in hybrid from the outside is this, the EQ hybrid badge that sits in front of the doors on the wings there. It's pretty nice in here. I will say that Mercedes, especially a few years ago, used to be touted as kind of the benchmark when it came to interiors, and I don't know if that's quite still the case, but Mercedes has done a good job to make all of this look pretty timeless. It looks like this in Mercedes for a fair while now, but you've got this big central screen, the sort of rounded air vents, the steering wheel is now this two-tier one that's been around for a little while, and there's still, piano black that sort of gets smudged pretty easily, but it's a pretty nice interior, it's a nice place to sit. The seat itself is comfortable and the tech all works. I'll run you through a few things that stand out in here, one being obviously this central multimedia touchscreen. It's been around like this for a little while now. Mercedes has had this MBUX system for a while, but it sort of does a good job of avoiding that trap that some other brands have fallen into, its biggest rival BMW, where this becomes kind of a giant iPad. There's, less than a dozen big buttons on here in the main menu, and the home screen is kind of just the map. It's really easy to use, it's simple, and it's not too distracting. Your climate controls also are always available on the screen here, so you don't have to go through submenus and try and look for them. And if you're inclined that way, you can use voice controls by saying the words that I'm not going to say right now because it will start talking to me while I'm trying to film this video. Another thing is this relatively clever space in here. It's a little bit annoying to get to, but there's space for your phone to sit out of sight, out of mind in a charger just there. The cup holders are in here too, and there's a little space down the side beside them that all gets hidden away by this, which means it looks nice and neat. You've also got more storage here for slightly bigger items, although this bin isn't actually that deep. There's some USB-C ports in there and in there for things like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as well. A really small thing in the Mercedes that I really like is that if you like all of your vents to look lined up perfectly, there's a nice click that these all have as soon as they hit that middle spot, which just tickles a spot in my brain that's really satisfying. Aside from that, one thing that's maybe, you know, good or bad depending on your preference is the controls on the steering wheel. They're all haptic sensitive and they all work as buttons, but to control things like the volume, you can slide your thumb up and down. If you've paused the music and you turn the volume up, sometimes that means the music turns back on. It's a little bit annoying, but other than that, the steering wheel is really nice to hold. Mercedes has got this kind of nice grip that sort of feels, along with the seat and its bolstering, like you're really in control of the vehicle, and it's got you sort of set in. The C-Class is only a mid-sized sedan, but it does pretty well in the second row considering that for an adult. I'm sitting behind my own seating position. I'm 178 centimeters and I've got heaps of knee room. My toes are just a little bit, if I really jam them in, stuck under the seat in front, but they've got plenty of space otherwise. Heaps of shoulder room, headroom as well, even with this sunroof up here, and the sunroof does go a long way to making it look a lot lighter and airy in here. That's as well as the white leather in this test car. This little armrest has this nice little double pop out cup holder that stays out of the way most of the time, which is pretty handy, but it's there if you need it. But there's also door card, bottle holders and stuff like that as well. There's this nice ambient lighting in here that makes it feel a little bit more upmarket so that you don't just feel like you're sitting in a bland second row. Plus, both sides in the back here have their own controls of those nice clicky vents, like I pointed out in the front as well.
The battery for the hybrid system sits under the second row seats, which means there's no uneven flooring in the 315-litre boot.
This engine cover makes it look like there's a lot more happening under there than there is, and it is a little bit more complex under there than your average everyday car, but it's not quite this big sweeping V8 that's under there. It's actually a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine paired with an electric motor that drives the rear wheels down the back. It does that via a 9-speed transmission, but there's some numbers that come with that are a little bit confusing. The main ones is that the total system output 230 kilowatts and 550 newton meters, but the engine itself produces just 150 kilowatts and 320 newton meters. It's then helped by that electric motor that I mentioned before, 95 kilowatts and 440 newton meters. All of that means that total system output, like I just said, the rear wheels, 0 to 100 in 6.1 seconds. Not bad for a car that doesn't actually have an AMG badge on it. Not only is the C350e nice inside regardless, but it's also pretty pleasant when you get on the move. As far as Mercedes is concerned, it's kind of up there as sort of a benchmark standard everyday car. And, you know, adding all of that plug-in hybrid stuff, there was the potential that it would change the way it feels or the dynamics of it or maybe make it less of a driver's car, but I don't think it has. It still holds up in most of the key areas where it really is important. Firstly, it's pretty customizable. You've got a few drive modes. There's battery hold, which just uses the engine. You've got electric, hybrid, and then there's also sports mode, which gets the most out of the responsiveness of its drivetrain. It's really pleasant in electric. It doesn't feel like that electric motor suffers from being not quite enough without the engine helping it along. And there's a pretty high top speed when it comes to electric only driving. You can get up to 130 k's an hour, which is more than you'll need on your commute to work, I imagine. Even in hybrid mode though, the engine popping in and out is pretty smooth. It's almost imperceptible, especially if you find yourself on, like this one, a pretty standard kind of rough Australian road. But even on those roads, the suspension and the NVH is pretty decent. I mean, I don't have the music on at the moment, obviously, because I'm talking to you, but I think considering how bad our roads are in this country, the Mercedes C-Class does a pretty good job of keeping wind noise, vibrations, and those kind of like annoying, coarse, chipped road sounds to a minimum. That one back there was particularly bad. And then of course, if you're a keen driver, you've got sports mode, which even though this isn't really a sports car, it feels plenty peppy. You sort of have that initial burst of torque from the fact that it has an electric motor, but also that engine is pretty solid on its own. 230 kilowatts isn't anything to be laughed at. It's in fact more powerful than a lot of hot hatches, most of them in fact. And 6.1 seconds to 100 is pretty decent for a car that you'd probably consider more of a family car than anything that you would take to a racetrack. Aside from some initial hesitation when you put your foot down, thanks to the transmission, just takes a second to drop down a gear and get things going. The acceleration's pretty nice and linear, and you can fix that transmission hesitation by using the paddles if you're in sport mode, which lets you select the gear. If you're not in sports mode though, the paddles decide how much regeneration happens when you take your foot off the accelerator, and it's pretty good. There's an automatic mode that sort of tries to work out how much braking regen to apply, just as you're rolling along, but you can set it to let yourself coast more, or if you're, going down a hill or a, long mountain drive, you can set it to be heavy regen so that you get back as much battery power as you can. On some of the twisty roads outside of Melbourne, I found the C-Class to be pretty good. We've been driving the GLC and the C-Class today, so my brain has done that thing of going, it's not an SUV and it's really nice to drive, but I think given the popularity of SUVs, you should probably always consider, if you are a keen driver, something lower to the ground like a sedan. Anyway, its lateral grip and its handling is really, really quite confidence-inspiring. It handles some of those fast corners really well. It hasn't added heaps of noticeable weight by, including all that plug-in hybrid tech and the battery pack. And the way it drives is really intuitive. The steering, the braking, the acceleration, it all kind of works together and everything happens as you'd want it to, as you'd expect. What all that tech has added though is a fairly efficient drive. I'm looking at the stats on the trip computer for the drive I've done in this car today over the course of 1 hour and 51 minutes. I'm sitting on 3.5 litres per 100 Ks and 15 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. So both on the lower end for petrol and electric use. About 65% of that has been electric driving, and I am now looking at the range left in the battery and it's saying 53 Ks, which is pretty decent if your daily drive is, less than 40 Ks each way, and I imagine it would probably have to be. This car will probably get you to and from work every day under electric-only power.
Mercedes officially claims the C350e has a driving range of 104 kilometers under NEDC testing, with a 25.4 kilowatt-hour battery supplying the juice. Official fuel use is just 1.5 litres per 100 Ks, but Mercedes says that comes to 7.6 litres without any battery charge to help it out. Under standard 11 kilowatt AC charging, it's about 2 hours from flat to full, but with the optional 55 kilowatt DC fast charging, it takes about 20 minutes from flat to 80%.
Finally, something that is becoming more and more impressive about Mercedes as the days go on and driver assistance tech becomes more complicated. The way that the driver assistance tech works in these cars is really quite refreshing in that it doesn't intervene unless it really has to. What it does is give you light warnings at first, and then, for example, if you're about to hit something, it'll tug on the belt and make sure that you're paying attention and give you a bit of a noise. But other than that, it won't hit the brakes for you or grab the steering wheel away from you unless it really needs to. And that's something that's very deliberate. We've been told by Mercedes safety engineers and their heads of department that that is something they want the car to do. They want the car to be able to help the person driving make the decision rather than the car making the decision for them, and I'm a big fan of that.
The C-Class has a 5-star ANCAP rating, but it was tested in 2022 before the plug-in variant arrived. Still, 10 airbags and an advanced list of safety features provide peace of mind. The C-Class benefits from the brand's pre-safe collision protection system to minimise occupant injuries from an impact, even to your hearing. It also has emergency collision avoidance via steering input, driver monitoring, speed limit assist with adaptive cruise control, and parking sensors with surround view cameras. For the full list of safety features, check out the written review at carsguide.com.au. Merc has a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is par for a premium brand. Servicing is pricey though. A 3-year pack covering a service every 12 months or 25,000 Ks costs $3,355, that being just for 3 services. 4 years costs $4,630, or 5 includes a more expensive service and brings the total to $6,890. That is an average of $1,378 per service. Finding somewhere to spend all that money shouldn't be too hard though. There are 100 dealers listed in Australia.
So there's a lot to like about the C350e, especially if you have the kind of lifestyle that means you don't need to drive long distances every day. But for most people, like a lot of plug-in hybrids, it probably doesn't make sense. At least with this one though, it looks great, drives really well, and the price is on par with its non-hybrid sibling. But if it is something that tickles your fancy and it works for you and your lifestyle, this car ticks a lot of boxes.